settler colonial. This is not something that's anti-Semitic. It has nothing even remotely in the realm of anti-Semitism. It wouldn't have mattered if it was Jewish people going and colonizing Palestine, if it was anybody else, if it was European Christians who were doing the same thing, right? Then there still would have been resistance from the Palestinian population. It still would have been an ethnic displacement, regardless of who was doing it. I mean, this is like looking at the foundation of the United States of America when a bunch of colonists came over and started displacing Native Americans and killing and massacring Native Americans. And then you describe that history as a genocide, and then somebody turns around and says, oh, what, so you hate white people? And I shouldn't even use that as an example, because there are many conservatives who would come to that conclusion and say you hate white people if you point out the genocide of Native Americans at the foundation of the U.S. But, I mean, it's the same thing here. This is just an accurate description of the foundation of the State of Israel. In her official report to the UN this year, she urged the rejection of the conflict paradigm, describing Israel solely as an oppressor and legitimizing Palestinian resistance. I mean, Palestinians under international law, as an occupied people, illegally occupied, they do have a right to resistance. That's a fact under international law. Now, what that doesn't mean is it doesn't mean any Palestinian group has a right to go and massacre civilians in Israel. No, you don't have that right. That's still a war crime. But they do have a right to resistance against the IDF or against Israeli security forces or against violent settlers who are terrorizing them and trying to forcefully push them off of their lands. They do have a right to resistance against that. That's not even really controversial, or it shouldn't be controversial. And there is a question there too of, like, you know, we hear this line over and over and over again, Israel has a right to self-defense, Israel has a right to self-defense, and all of that, and it's like, it's a very easy line to say, but under international law it gets a lot murkier. An occupying power actually does not have a right to self-defense in the way that people typically understand it against a people that they are occupying. They have a right to protect their own, you know, citizens within Israel, yeah, but it's not the same thing as a war between two states. This is a war between, it's a totally asymmetrical war, if you can even call it a war, between an occupied people and the people who are occupying them. It's not, you know, it's not really comparable there, especially not in terms of military power. And so I'll leave this down below because I don't want this video to go on for like an hour, but I'll leave down the actual report here. It's called An Anatomy of Genocide, and this was Francesca's conclusions, and they have a summary up here, and then the recommendations that she's giving, and then the entire report, about 25 pages long, is down there. A couple main points that I highlighted here. I mean, the recommendations are very interesting.